What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel where the vibes are immaculate, the gameplay is crispy, and today I got some fire for y'all today. OG Pokemon fans, where you at? Today, we talking about the Cerulean City Queen herself, Misty. Now listen, Misty isn't just any gym leader, alright? She's got that main character energy. She's rocking that Water Pokémon life, Starmie, Psyduck, and let's not forget how she's always roasting Ash. Iconic, period. But today, we're bringing all that Misty greatness into Pokemon TCG Pocket, baby. We're back with the Kanto Gym Leader Challenge. We're on Misty. If you guys missed that first video I posted with the Brock deck, please take a look at that video. I'm gonna drop that video down in the description. And I just wanna remind you guys, there's a few challenges for this challenge to work. Okay, so I have to play with 2 gym leader trainer cards for the trainer that I'm using. So an example, I have to use 2 Misty gym leader cards in this deck. 1, I also have to use Pokemon that Misty has used in any of the anime, any of the mangas, or any of the video games that she's ever been in. And last but not least, I need to get 7 wins out of 10 games. Let's get to the deck list breakdown, okay? Okay, so we have 2 Staryu, 2 Lapras EXs, 2 Starmie EXs, 2 Jigglypuff of the new Jigglypuff, the event Jigglypuff, and we have 2 Wigglytuff EXs, 1 X Speed, 2 Pokeballs, 2 Professor's Research, 2 Misties, 1 Giovanni, and 2 Sabrinas. Okay, so let me tell you what games I got all her Pokemon from. Staryu and Starmie, we know are her iconic Pokemon from like the anime and the games. Lapras is a Pokemon that she used in Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal. Jigglypuff and Wigglytuff actually come from Pokemon Stadium 2 on N64. That's where I got all these Pokemon from. Okay, so game 1, we started off really good. We got Jigglypuff out and started singing, and I actually made my opponent stay asleep for their turn, which was actually pretty good. My next turn, I actually get my Lapras out there, and I actually use Misty, and we actually hit a pretty good Misty, finally for once. So I was able to go ahead and retreat into my Lapras. Now my Lapras is fully set, ready to go. Put that extra on that Jigglypuff. We start attacking here. So we knock out the Machamp. And now it's up to my opponent, who actually concedes. All he has is Cubone left. Game is over. Game 1 to us. All right, game 2. This is actually pretty easy. Once I got my Staryu out at like turn 5, all he had was that Fergadier out there. Knocked him out. No Pokemon in the back. We win game 2. Game 3. Now, game 3 was actually a pretty good deck here. Actually, I liked this one. It was really fun. My opponent here has the really good, nice card sleeves right there. The black ones are clean. I love it. I have them as well. And there's a coughing out in front. Let me tell you things about coughing. Whenever I see coughing, I'm like, oh man, here we go. I'm like, what did they pair coughing with? Because coughing's so versatile. I love coughing actually, but it was actually a pretty fun deck to go against. And my opponent puts down the new Jigglypuff as well. And I was like, yes, another Jigglypuff deck. And I love this deck. The Wigglytuff deck with the Weezing is fire. Love that deck, man. My turn. And I actually pull out some good Pokemon here. I got my evolutions going, which is fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and put this energy on Staryu and start attacking. This was a pretty good duel, man. We got a pretty good setup, both of us. And I feel like every time somebody has a coughing, the very next turn, they always drop Weezing. Every single time. I'm always feeling that they do that. Doesn't happen to me like that all the time, but every time I go against a coughing, it always evolves into Weezing the very next turn. Guaranteed. So on this one, I'm going to go ahead and evolve all my Pokemon, get Wigglytuff out there, get both Starmies out, and then we're going to try and use Misty to see if we can get some free energy on this one. Last game it worked, this game it did not. Okay, so we go ahead and get our Starmie going, and we start attacking here. Knock out the Weezing, which was pretty good. I wanted to get that Pokemon out of here as soon as possible. And so now he has his Jigglypuff out here. And this event Jigglypuff is very scary, man, for this reason right here. Look, I can't wake up. This is a very, very powerful basic Pokemon. This Jigglypuff can go in any deck. So I used Sabrina here to get it out of the way because I did not want to keep dealing with it, putting me to sleep. And look, I still didn't wake up. So I'm like, oh no, ain't no way I'm going to sit here and be asleep for 3 different tries in a row. And my opponent here left the Jigglypuff in the back, and luckily I flipped ahead. So I'm like, okay, let's start putting some pressure on this Wigglytuff. We try another Misty here. We go ahead and flip, and of course we miss, because why would I ever hit that? Okay. And we go ahead and click Splash here. And now I put a lot of pressure on my opponent. Now his Wigglytuff is in death range. He heals it, and I'm like, okay, what are you gonna do now? He puts his extra thing on here, and he retreats it. He's like, you know what? Let's go ahead and get this Wigglytuff out of here and put Jigglypuff in front. And I'm like, no! And he goes for Sing again. So I'm like, oh, here we go. But then I actually hit out of it, thank God. So I was like, okay, cool. So I'm getting my Wigglytuff set up, and I got Sabrina to put the pressure and bring it back in. It is GG's on that. And we go ahead and knock out the Wigglytuff, and we take this one right here, 3 in a row. Let's go, man. This deck is really fun. I'm telling you guys right now. This is a very, very fire deck, and I haven't really seen this one around. And on this one, this is the 4th game, so, oh yeah, man, I remember this one. Okay, so I have my Staryu here, and I have my Lapras. I don't typically like to lead off with Lapras unless it's absolutely necessary. I know sometimes you can get that turn 1 win, but you already know how it goes with Misty. We don't hit those like that all the time, so I'm not gonna get my Lapras stuck out there in the front and then I pull, you know, like my Starmie in my next hand or something like that, right? Because, you know, I got my Professor Zoka and everything that I could use. So I was like, I don't really want to get Starmie. I don't want to get Lapras stuck out there in the active spot. So right now I'm thinking like, okay, so am I going to put my extra Lapras down? Or am I just gonna put this extra Staryu down? Because I know I wanted to try to put one of them. I was like, you know what? Nah, let's do Starmie. I don't want to have 2 Laprases because they're too hard to retreat. So I was like, I don't really want to flood it right now. Here's my Misty. So I'm like, okay, let's do Misty. Let's see what happens. I'm like, oh, okay, we hit. I'm like, boom, okay. I was like, all right, so we got 2 of them going. I'm like, this is cool. We're looking pretty good right here. So I'm like, all right, let's leave it at that. So now it's my opponent's turn. And I was like, all right, that was a pretty good turn. We actually hit on the Misty, but still we didn't hit enough to hit that first turn anyway. So it's fine. So I'm sitting here thinking like, okay, what are they going to pair with this Staryu, right? Because I'm like, is it Starmie Articuno, Starmie Greninja? I don't really know what's going on. My opponent here is thinking, and he red cards me, of course. And I'm like, okay. My Professor Oak goes out of here, and let's see what this thing does to me. Gives me my Jigglypuff, which I needed. Gives me another Misty, which I needed. And it gave me a Pokeball. So I was like, cool. We're looking good right here. There's the basic Lapras. I'm like, okay. I'm like, let's see what they're going to do. There's Articuno. So I was like, all right. So we know what we're going against here. Articuno is always a scary mon to go against. So I'm like, okay, we got to go ahead and try to get this thing cleared out as fast as possible, man. We picked up another Professor's Research, which is great. So I'm like, okay, so now we've got that back. So that red card didn't mean anything to us. So I'm like, let's go ahead and Pokeball here. Let's just go ahead and try to get all our basics out of the deck right now. And I'm like, you know what? I wanted to retreat this Staryu, right? Without having to use my energy that I get for the turn. So I was like, let's see if we can hit a Misty on this. And I can use whatever this to retreat off of it so I can get my Lapras in. And guess what? I didn't hit it, of course. So I was like, let's go ahead and get Jigglypuff down here just in case Wiggly comes up. Let's go ahead and put our energy on our Lapras and let's just go ahead and pass turn. All right, so I'm like, okay, here we go. I'm like, man, that sucks. I was like, I really wanted to get that Lapras out there. I did not want my opponent doing this. I was like, here we go. See, I was like, if I was able to get my Lapras out there last turn, that Staryu would have been gone. He'd have had a dead card. It would have been perfect for me. So there goes my Staryu, just like that. And now I have to deal with that Starmie, man. I was kind of mad. I'm not gonna lie. I was kind of fuming at this point. I was like, man, I was so close. I was like, why couldn't I hit that Misty? Just 1 heads was all I needed. But I was like, okay. I was like, maybe I should have used the Professor's Research earlier and that would have gotten me the X speed I needed. But I'm like, whatever. I was like, okay, let's go ahead and do this. All right, so now I'm like, okay, we got Wigglytuff. Perfect. Let's go ahead and drop that down. I'm like, all right. I was like, let's go ahead and start setting up our Wiggly just in the back way. We don't even have to worry about the Staryu here. And I'm like, all right, well, let's go ahead and start clicking buttons and trying to take care of this Starmie. So we hit Starmie for 80. So now I'm just like, all right, my opponent's gonna hit me for 90. I'm thinking like, oh man, that's gonna be a lot. I was like, now, you know, he's gonna be able to set up his Articuno, but he uses Sabrina. And I don't really understand why my opponent was wanting to do this. I was thinking like, wouldn't you have wanted to take damage on my Lapras? But for some reason, I don't know if they wanted to get these 2 knockouts on both of my Staryus to kind of deal with the Starmies that I would have in my deck. I'm not really too sure, because now my Lapras is going to be full healed and I'm going to knock out his Starmie without my Lapras taking any damage at all. And that is what's going to be very powerful, man. I'm not really sure what my opponent was thinking at that point. And I'm actually getting really good cards. This was a really good hand, a really good draw. Dropping down Jigglypuff and a Lapras, and I'm like, all right, let's go ahead and put another energy on our Wigglytuff. And I was like, let's just go ahead and knock out the Starmie. Thank you, opponent, for giving me the free one right here. I really thought that my Lapras was about to be cooked for 90 HP right there, but he didn't. So I was like, okay, let's go. My opponent just let me go ahead and have that one. So here comes Articuno. So I'm like, okay, well, unless you have a Misty back there, the most you could take is 40, and I'm gonna heal, you know, when my next attack. So I'm like, okay, let's see what they're gonna do here. They go ahead and Ice Wing, get me to 40. I'm like, okay, well, GG's for my opponent, because they're gonna try to, you know, they're not gonna be able to do much damage because now their Articuno is gonna be in kill range. So I was like, let's go ahead and put as much pressure on this Articuno as possible. So we use Giovanni here so we can do a good 90. And now my opponent is going to have to back out that Articuno and put Lapras in. That's the only thing that they can do if they want to survive the next turn for me. So I'm just sitting here like, well, you know, I'm like, this is going to be one of those turns they could pull out, you know, a Misty or anything like that, but they didn't. They used their professor's research, and I was like, yes, no Misty. We don't have to worry about anything like that. And I just don't like Misty just being played, especially if they want to put a Misty on like that Lapras. That's what I was afraid of, was gonna play a Misty, hit that Lapras, give Lapras hella energy, and I would have been kind of upset about that. So my opponent here is gonna XP. They're gonna try to sit this Articuno in the back so they could try to use it as the sweep for them to win a game, and they already know they only need one more Pokemon to kill. So I'm looking at things like, okay, so now we got to do another attacking on this Pokemon. I don't have any of my Sabrinas, so I'm like, all right, well, let's see how this goes. And so my opponent here has a pass turn, and we draw a card, Sabrina. GG to my opponent on that. And Sabrina came up. I was excited. I was like, let's go. This is 4 games in a row for us now. Sabrina just showed up in the nick of time, man. My opponent concedes here, and that is game 4. We are 4-0 in this deck, man. I'm telling you right now, this deck is fire. So game 5, we ended up going against a Pikachu and Raichu deck, and they actually just took us out, man. That was our weakness. There was nothing we could do on that one. We tried our best, but we just got took out on that one. Game 6, now we're 4-1. We're like, all right, we're not gonna drop 2 in a row. Go Charizard comes out, and I don't really have anything that can deal with that. GG's to my opponent on that one. I tried my best to try to take this thing out before the Charizard got out there. Once Charizard got out there, it was curtains for me. Game 7, I'm actually up on this Dragonite deck, and I hit them with the Sabrina to bring out their Jolteon. I needed 1 more point, and my opponent concedes on that one, man. So we got lucky on that one. Beat the Dragonite deck. They were about to do some damage. Game 8, here we go. So I'm sitting here, right? Game 8, we are playing an Alakazam and an Executor deck, actually, which is very, very funny. There will be more on that later, but we actually had them on the ropes. They actually conceded once we played the Sabrina. Another game for us. Game 8 was ours. Game 9, here we go. So I'm like, okay, let's see what we can do here. Starmie, Articuno deck. This is the traditional deck. There's no extra mons on this one. We had them on the ropes on this one. I throw down my Lapras, and I'm like, you know what? Let's go ahead and hit them with the Misty. They see Misty pop up, and my opponent's like, no, I don't want no problems. None of that. We get another victory, baby. And here we go. The game 10. And it's against Mewtwo as well, man. And I tried my best to get this mon out of here, but Mewtwo was just too much with Gardevoir. Man, this Misty deck, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, this deck was very, very fun to use, man. Let me know down in the comments if you guys like this video, if you guys like the deck, if you're gonna try it. Wigglytuff goes great with this Misty deck right here, man. I actually used this deck as well to get my 5 wins in a row for the new event that's going on right now. Let me know if you guys like the video, man. Drop a like, man. It's absolutely free. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet. I'm making all type of fire Pokemon TCG Pocket content. Let me know, man, if you guys are feeling this deck. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Surge is up next.